Now that it's 2025, I just wanted to make a quick video for all of you guys just to show you what I think is going to happen in the new year. And I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a taste of what I really do every day in the top tier of my Patreon. And what I'm about to show you is basically, I think everything was in a bottoming process right before the new year, so the new year can start off kind of strong. So here's a video in this regard, and I'm going to start with the SPY. And we can see that when we zoom in from the fib back in 2022 to the low here in October 22, you can see that this 1.618 fib is back at support. So what did they do over the past 3 weeks? Well, they kept on just slamming it down into support over and over again right before the new year, just to create maybe a bottoming process, perhaps to rebalance or perhaps to strike fear in everybody. But so far, this is looking like it's holding. Now, we do see there's a lot more support below in the 550s and the 540s, but is it really necessary to go down there? I'm not too sure about that, and I'm going to show you why on my 4-hour chart here. And the 4-hour chart is showing a pretty bullish scenario. So this 4-hour again here is basically, let me just zoom out for you so you can see that it is essentially right from the bottom of October of 2022, and this is the 45-degree angle, and it's acted as a support, then a resistance, then a support, then a support, all the way up. And what is it doing right now? This is still acting as a support. So until anything changes, I cannot assume otherwise. So what I can ultimately see is maybe price will just stay in this zone for some time until it's really ready to break higher and higher, perhaps closer to the inauguration. But this is one example of things being at support right before the new year. And next I want to show you is the QQQ, and the QQQ here is also pretty close to a support zone again. So the week's not over yet, so we don't know if it's going to hold this 511.70 conversion line there, or if it needs to come back down and retest that 1.414 Fibonacci extension from the same period as the SPY, right, the high and the low. So if it needs to come back down there, that's fine. It's done it plenty of times before, and it would just be another back test. And there also is still a lot more support below if it needed to go down there as well. But I don't know if it will need to go down there too much further, because simply I want to show you the QQQ 4-hour chart here. And the QQQ 4-hour chart is something similar to the SPY, where it's not back down to this support zone yet at 506 or a wick below, but it's getting close. So is this 506 zone really going to be the ultimate support? I think it has a decent chance. And the reason why is because of this breakout here, and it broke down below to get all this liquidity there. And then it was a breakout and another back test of this with another back test here. So I think we already have 2 successful back tests of that 506 zone. So I think that has a possibility to hold as support. So this is really another example of something that's really close to support by the year end, maybe just to create some panic or to create opportunities to maybe do a launch mode right in the beginning of the new year. And next we have IWM, and IWM people are really worried about, but what I see with IWM is also something similar to the SPY and the QQQ. So after getting rejected at the previous all-time highs, it came back down to this 702 Fibonacci. This is at 219.79. And look what it's been doing for the past 3 weeks as well. Week after week after week, it's been basically building the base on top of this 219.79, wicking through that level each time. And right above it is the baseline at 220.84, which also has a potential to close back above on Friday. So this is looking also like a bottoming process for the IWM right before the new year. So if I go to the 4-hour chart for IWM here, what can we see specifically? Well, let's take a look at this 4-hour chart. So from the beginning here down in 2023, we can take a look at this blue angle, right? This blue angle offered or was acting as a support throughout the majority of the time. And then just recently it broke below possibly to reclaim all of this liquidity down here where there was previous lows from October, previous lows from basically September, previous lows down here, maybe in September as well. So all it's doing is just getting this liquidity, but pay attention to this arc. So this 4-hour arc was a breakout and a back test and a big breakdown. But look what is doing right now. It's currently on the top side again of that arc. So is this the bottom right before the new year? I think it is very, very possible to assume that because this is looking like it's now once again building a base on top of this arc here. And when you add that to the confluence of that 219 zone that I showed you on the weekly chart, this now has potential to go back up to the 227 level and possibly flip that back to a support and then go higher. So once again, another indice ETF that is looking like the bottom is pretty close right before the new year. And next is MicroStrategy. And when we look at this chart for MicroStrategy and we put a fib on from 2021 of February down to the low here in 2022. And I'm using linear scale because I just wanted to show you how accurate the linear scale chart has been, the fibs. So from there to there, you can see it went straight up to the 1.414, then back tested all the red zone down here, the 886, the 786, and so on, before it really took off to go higher and higher. Then what did it do? It went straight up and did a full extension, right? It went up to the 4.236, but it didn't really close any weekly candle above this 3.618. So that is the 441.06. And because of that, it just decided to go retest lower levels. And we can see that the 322.82 actually looked like it was going to hold because it did hold for the past couple of weeks before this current week. So the trajectory of that just means it wants to go test a little bit deeper of support. And I thought the 322 was going to hold, but no, it didn't. So now we're going to possibly go to the 281.91, which it's almost there, right? 289. And there is still a gap right there too with this weekly candle here, this wick. There's still a little bit of a gap right there that could close, and that's at 280.80. So there could be just a wick through there down in the high 270s or so, and this is looking like support is near. And when I combine this to also the 4-hour chart, we can see that it's actually retesting this arc right here. So if we go into the future, maybe it wants to go down a little bit deeper and retest a little bit lower before getting back above the arc again and going back toward the orange level around 302 before ultimately going higher. So support is looking like it's almost there, right? Almost there with this gap fill down here is possible, right? But once again, this is just another example of a chart that is basically near support right before the end of the year, before things can probably start to pick up again in 2025. And next we have Bitcoin here. And Bitcoin, I want to show you this 1.414 fib extension. And this is from the all-time high back in 2021. So we can see that it is actually currently still building a base on top of this 91,158. And actually it's pretty bullish still because it hasn't really even back tested it since November of 2024. So is it really possible to go back down there and backtest that support over and over again? Yes, it still is possible because it has not even touched it. Like it had the opportunity earlier, a few days ago, to just go down there and get it, right? To get that liquidity down there, but it didn't. It stopped short right at 91,315, and it didn't even get to the 91,158. So this is always in the back of my mind that it is possible to get down there. But when I go to the 4-hour chart for Bitcoin right here, we can see that it's holding a level of my GAN very, very, very well. So again, this GAN is very important. We can go back to the beginning here as well. Let me just get rid of that. We can see that this 45-degree angle also acted as a support and a resistance zone until it broke out. Then at first, this blue level here got rejected as resistance, and then it flipped it to a support, and it's been back testing it ever since as a support, as a support, as a support. So what I really want to point out is nothing is broken yet. So it's not really a guarantee to go down there to that 91,000 level because this was the opportunity right here. But all it did is go back and retest these lows right here. So it's not guaranteed to do that. And as long as it keeps holding this 93,300 level on 4-hour candles, I think support is holding. And I know you saw the words up there that retail is more euphoric. And yes, they're more euphoric up here, right? Up here at resistance, and then they're more panicky at support. But I think this support is really, really important to pay attention to because it's not breaking, right? It's not really breaking through. And no matter how many times they try to push it down below, it still keeps propping up above this 93,300 level. So again, this is looking like another example of possibly market makers pushing down price to support zones right before the new year. And lastly, I want to show you guys Tesla here. And I know a lot of you are worried about Tesla, but I just wanted to show you this channel that I created for Tesla. And you can see that each line represents a range of support and resistance. So this is the channel, and we can see the top of Tesla was the top part of this channel here, right? You can see it was resistance here, then support here. Then it broke through that, went to the next channel, then broke through that, the next one, then and so on and so forth until it found a bottom there. And then ultimately it went back down there to retest that bottom channel. And now something I want to focus on is the channel above, where it was previously a support until it broke down, is now flipping it as a resistance. So when we zoom in here, we can see that price broke out of this channel, and now it's in the process of back testing. And where does that bottom of that channel sit? It sits around 395, maybe 396, 397, that zone right there. So it's almost there, right? It got to 403, maybe 401 after hours. So it's almost back testing that channel now at support. And actually, when I go to the 4-hour GAN on Tesla here, we can see clearly that it's also going down towards the bottom of this arc where it was once support before. And that was at 416 back on December 20th. And now what sits below it, that's around the 397 range. So depending on how deep it goes down, right, this zone has potential to hold, because when you look at the weekly chart, compare it with the 4-hour chart, it really looks like support is near. And because of that, we can see that maybe price can, in fact, continue to build a base in this zone again, and then go back up towards the 430s, maybe 435. And that's really the goal. Flip that 435 to a support, and then it can go higher. But just to show you the symmetry of this chart from the beginning of here in April of 2024, this blue angle really offered, or was, a major support zone. Flip to resistance, right? And then it finally broke out and went straight up to the 45-degree angle where it was once a resistance in the past. So this is looking pretty symmetrical, and it's looking like it's lining up perfectly with the weekly chart as well of that fib channel that I just showed you. So once again, this is another chart that is looking like they're putting it down to support right before the new year. So I know a lot of people are bearish out there, but I cannot see why, right? I see things are just being forced down to their respective support zones before the new year. And then I think it has the opportunity now to just build a base in their zones that I showed you and then go higher. So with that said, I am actually more bullish than ever on a lot of things, because things look like they got forced down to their support level right before the new year in order for things to start to take off once again.